Dear friends, a very good afternoon to you. I must admit the video was a tad lengthy, but I promise to you, with the kind of phenomenal changes we are seeing in the world, to be able to appreciate and realize that finding a shorter video was a task. I'm sure we all agree we are living in a world which is all connected. Rapid digitalizations and rapid automations are happening, and disruption has become the new normal. In our own world, in our own tax world, we don't need to go long back when we witnessed probably one of the biggest, arguably one of the biggest tax disruption, and I'm sure you all will agree it is spelled as GST. I sometimes wonder if the T in GST is only for tax, or is there a subtle reference to technology as well? So what is your response to these transformational times? Are you driving the change, or are you being driven by it? Well, with these pertinent questions, I will initiate the panel discussion today. I'll take an opportunity to reintroduce the panelists once again. We have Mr. Sanjeev Singh. Mr. Sanjeev Singh has been instrumental in a lot of government initiatives. He has worked very hard and has fructified the National Anti-Money Laundering Unit of our country. We have Vishal Malhotra, who is still in his first job. And you'll be happy to know that his first job is continuing for the last 27 years. He has seen a lot in the advisory work. His passion is telecommunication, and in one of the advice on a big telecommunication structuring, he was actually asked to give an affidavit to the Supreme Court that he's of sane mind. I leave all of you to decide that after the panel. I'm sorry, Vishal. We have Mr. Naveen Jain. Naveen feels his passion is in the oil and gas industry. Apart from being very, very good at tax and numbers, he has also developed a keen expertise in tarot reading. So I'm sure you know what, where, and why to get hold of him after the panel. And last but not the least, we have Vanita Bansal. She is definitely a tax professional, but is increasingly believing and feeling that her passion lies in technology. She's intrigued by it all the time and is waiting for a world where all her tax queries will get resolved by the click of a button. So coming to the panel discussion, well, one of the disruptions which we all are seeing in today's world is tax technology. And in this panel, I'm making an effort to keep it structured. Again, the reason being there is so much to discuss in tax technology that we will have a tendency to go all over the place. So as you see on your screen, what we'll try and focus is on the why, what, and who of tax technology. So coming to the why of tax technology, Mr. Sanjeev, I mentioned briefly about India GST, but it's not just about India GST. If we actually look across the entire globe, increasingly almost all countries are adopting tax digital administration, whether it's Spain, Italy, Norway, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Brazil, you name it. There are changes happening in the tax world on tax digital administration. So would you want to start with why is this change and why is it so important?
Thank you, Vinay. The tax administration worldwide, including India, we are focusing on primarily three things and which is driving us. First is about ease of compliance, ease of doing business, and taxpayer expectations being as tax administration, they expect certain services to be given to them in a manner which they are getting from other places. In terms of whether in filling up the return, can they get everything available without capturing it? They're looking for that kind of service. If they're looking at a demand being created, the reason for the demand and possible resolution. So all these services, we believe, if given properly and efficiently, can make a voluntary tax compliance better and people pay taxes. That is the first element. The second element which is driving us is all these processes, whether it's registration and filing, or data exchange. We are getting a lot of data. Data which is voluminous, which is relevant to determine cases where tax has not been properly paid, and to make sure that tax is collected in reasonable time. So the data utilization aspect, which is the integration, data warehousing, analytical aspect is the second area. The third, which is offshoot of all this work, the way we do work within the department, when you talk of something like e-assessment or grievance handling or country by country reporting data to be examined within the department, or fat cow CRS data, we need to create and modify the processes. And we need to be monitoring all the work we do in a more systematic manner. So I would call service delivery, better utilization of data, and lastly, the tax administration per se. These three things are driving the entire technology part.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. That was so well summed up. I always wonder if tax technology is an area where the government is ahead of the corporates, and if the corporates needs to pull up their sleeves. So Naveen, this is coming to you. Where do you think the corporates are as far as tax technology is concerned, and why you think it is important for them to embrace it or enhance it?
So Vinay, there could be various reasons for a corporate to embrace the tax technology. Some of the panelists mentioned about board being very, very keen to ensure that all your compliances are being done timely. Now, it is not humanly possible with multiple business, multiple countries to give that assurance to board unless you have a very strong architecture of compliance calendars and compliance level certification at a business level. So that becomes one of the key drivers from a compliance perspective. There could be certain areas like GST where technology comes very, very naturally. Though you could be at a different stage of that implementation in terms of data input or in terms of the kind of reports that you generate, some manual, some automation. But that's a perfect example from source to output, which could be automated and which is an area for one to focus upon. The other could be, it's not humanly possible to do that thing without a technology. So there are certain areas, if I have to collate the information, if I have to prepare reports, it's not possible otherwise than to do without technology. The other could be human errors. The kind of inconvenience you could be subjected to or your position undermining that could happen. We live in a culture, in Vedanta, the culture is of audit. MIS audit is a very, very powerful tool. So every month there is an audit for compliance, there is an audit in terms of the financial accuracy of the data, and what you rate in terms of that accuracy determines, how good you're performing. So we live in a constant audit situations, so technology could be your only saver. So those are some of the key drivers when it comes to technology for us.
Thanks, Naveen. Vanita, your views on the same?
Very similar. So I think you asked first a question about is government ahead of corporates. I definitely feel they are much ahead of the corporates, and we have very little time to now speed up and gear up to the preparation which government has already achieved. So definitely they are much ahead is what my observation is. In terms of the drivers or in terms of the need, I think change technology is inevitable. It's no longer an option now. Maybe an option few years back, but looking at kind of quantum of data we are talking about, the complexities, evolving tax environment, evolving India tax environment, it's no longer an option. So it's something which it's there. So whether GST is one evident, visible change where technology and tax talks together on a real-time basis, but it's true for all the laws, all the allied laws, and it's no longer an option. And if I have to see, I can say the point which Naveen was saying, there are increased complexities and increased compliance requirements. So higher the penalties and there are less chances of errors or there are less options to make errors. So we have to rely on technology to kind of keep the errors, probably just make the errors disappear to the extent possible. And to a point, I think you put that as my introduction in terms of my wish list and having at some point of time in future looking at click of mouse and you see everything in front of your screen. That being a wish list, if I have to add, this wish list was probably always there. There's probably a human need besides anything else. But availability of technology is something which was not there.
Yeah.
That's again my observation over the last few years. And it's increasing, changing very fast, whether it's government side or whether it's corporate side, or the technology providers like you or the consulting firms. So the whole focus is there and there are lot many platforms, lot many technology which is available in right now to make this choice possible and making this change inevitable. I think that's something which
Yeah.
will be my observation.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. So basically the wish list was always there. Now we have the means to make it reality. And I think till 2017, I could still say that technology was knocking on the doors of tax, but I now think it has forcibly entered into the tax workspace. Vishal, what is your view? Why is the tax world on the cusp of riding on this wave of technology?
So one is, I don't think technology is a disruptor. I think tax technology, I think it's more of an enabler. As the fellow panelists have said, that compliances have gone up substantially over a period of time, and even business complexity, accounting complexities have substantially enhanced. And to tackle with the problems or the issues they throw up, I think no other better mean to deploy technology. And as Vinita said, now a lot of technological tools are available also, which were on your wish list.
Yep.
But you can really avail them and employ in the businesses. The other, I think the driver also is the greater need for transparency and correctness of data being submitted.
Yep.
See, so far I think the various compliances which have been done have been divided in silos. So you do some compliance for IDT front, some compliance for direct tax. The two systems do not talk.
Yep.
Now, with the initiative taken by the government to make all these compliances digital,
Yep.
the government has access to the data. And if the two data are materially different, I think you are really exposed to substantial level of penal consequences. And the government have now access to that. So it may not be intentional, but it may happen because of the volume of data the corporates are dealing with, and the ERP systems are not necessarily designed to pull out data for tax compliances. So,
Yep.
so I think the environment is such that the corporates, the sooner they embrace technology, the better will be the compliance, and the better will be the risks they will be carrying on going forward.
Okay, wonderful. So it was always the wish list, but what Vishal added is it is also the government initiatives which is propelling people to adopt the right technology. Makes sense. So, Mr. Sanjeev, one key takeaway. Again, the government is the initiator here, and other people are following your footsteps. We are hearing about, well, e-filing is an old story now. We have started hearing about faceless assessments. We are all experiencing the positive side of e-refunds. What do you think are these initiatives which the government is taking, and what are the technologies behind it?
Let me put into again three buckets.
Yeah.
As far as the taxpayer service and delivery is concerned, e-filing, of course, is nearly 10 years old, flagship project for us. Within 6 months, we are converging and integrating e-filing and CPC. That could build a lot of new ecosystems in terms of service which a tax intermediary can consume. For example, pre-filling of return. We believe we have to come to a situation that the return should be error-free.
Yeah.
The processing has to be defect-free the first time, and it should be processed within 1 or 2 days. So we are coming with a different business model. So this is where we say first time defect free and very little of rectification, and there is incentive for the entire service provider to work around this concept. Second is the awareness part. How do you make them aware about the obligations that conceptually they don't make a mistake?
Yep.
Third, if we are coming up with some issue in terms of demand or mismatch, we should take internal steps to make sure that that is properly reconciled internally at the department level, not at a TDS level or income tax level. So
Yep.
whatever we can do internally to minimize the defect which is passed on, and then if it is so, how do we communicate and enable it to be resolved in a timely manner? So this is the first focus. Consolidation of all our taxpayer service delivery initiatives, of course, with added component like mobile, because what was portal 12 years back is today mobile. People don't want to go to portal, they want most of the services. Of course, filing of return on a mobile, okay, saying okay is okay, but filling up return is difficult, but responding to these, or viewing the defects and making a service request can be very mobile driven. So that is one aspect of it. Coupled with that, we are looking at a seamless tax payment and refund system. Broad differences, you can pay from any bank, any mode, a lot of services around payment.
Okay.
Plus, refund being issued, 100% of the account, will not give any checks. We are looking at a deadline within 2 months, all refunds will be electronic, and which will be supported by a pre-validation process. So this is about the taxpayer delivery. Number 2 is about the core part, the work which I handle is about linking all data and improving tax compliance. Again, the strategy is simple, is twofold. How do we make information available to a taxpayer so that he voluntarily complies? And number 2, if he is not complied, we should have greater ability to detect that non-compliance and take it to logical end through a process which gives us results. So this is a project which we are doing, this Insight project, which we have built one of the largest data warehouses, which is coupled with a lot of data enrichment tools, because typically till now we are focusing on the return for scrutiny selection. For last 5-6 years we moved to third-party matching, but once we link all this data and data which is coming from third parties or coming from international jurisdictions, a lot of more processing enrichment needs to be done so that we are able to select the right kind of case. Now, selection also involves us to know who knows who.
Yep.
Two entities which may be related may not be disclosed to us.
Right.
Whether it's a transfer pricing issue, whether it is any other diversion of funds. So who knows who, and where is a person actually living?
Yep.
So these things I think are important. These relationships which are very much there if you collate information, but not so explicit in a return level.
Yep.
So from a very transaction level focus, we are moving to a much more enriched data level, and also looking at the behavior part and compliance history. So we believe we have to give due credit for a person who has been complying, and from a transaction-based approach, it has to be a compliance approach. So when you look at this compliance approach, we are looking at 5 areas to focus on. The first area is third-party reporting. What we have, it has to be enhanced multiple times by ensuring zero data defect. So we have again started something with every report, every information that comes to us. We do a validation with around 60-70 rules, give it back to the bank, tell them issues which you have identified, ask them to rectify. So that any defective case, because of defective information, we are not raising a compliance issue on a person who has not made a mistake. That's number 1. Number 2 is integration and enrichment. Third is about BI. BI is what my officers, they need actually.
Yeah.
Because we have a very centralized scrutiny selection system which I run. So which, of course, has a lot of benefits, but actually doesn't capture the real human intelligence part. So we are looking at some kind of a combined collective intelligence framework where system does part of the job, human do part of the job.
Yeah.
And how do we enable this kind of convergence to happen? That is the third part. Fourth is, once we have identified something which is important, you talked about e-assessment. The maturity of the process within e-assessment is not so mature as a service delivery.
Yep.
Because it's a very cumbersome and complex process. So what we are trying to do, break down the entire assessment process into very traceable work packets and work issues, trying to make sure that not only we are managing this entire process more effectively, we are learning from the outcomes.
Excellent.
And we are able to track what happened on this issue and bring a lot of traceability and accountability to the entire process. So that is what we are working on. This will help us going forward as to leverage what I call smart automation. Routine issues such as mismatch of information should be closed by a process within reasonable time without a person required to go to an income tax office. So till now what we said, you upload your response, but ultimately if you have to go to office just to explain that part which is very easily verifiable or confirmed,
Yep.
can it be done through a process within a day? That is what we are working on. And third is the entire automation of our tax administration. So this again our initiative with last 2-3 years. We call it income tax business application. Every work that every person is doing should be on a platform which is workflow based, so that escalation, monitoring and MIS is automatically generated. So this is again it is the most difficult part for us.
Yep.
Because when you say something has to be put as an obligation on a taxpayer, he has to do it only once. And he gets support of, tax practitioners to do it, maybe filing of return. But we tell our own officers
Yep.
that since morning until time you go back to your home, you have to work on the system.
Yep.
And everything you do has to be on the system. So it is, for us to implement that change, it's really not so easy. So, but these are 3 big areas we're working on. Of course, AI and other things are very much part of it, whether it's analytics, whether these 2 things are same, whether these 2 people are same, what confidence level we use AI or some kind of analytical models. In terms of service delivery, we have rolled out chatbots which are NLP and AI driven, and plus we'll go more towards it. So these are things which we use, all possible technologies which we can lay hands on, we are trying to use.
So, Mr. Sanjeev, I must admit I'm at a loss of word. What is it that you left? It is much, much beyond what I imagine the government must be doing. I don't know what the audience feels, but I think everything that's possible is covered and is on your radar. So that's truly phenomenal. I can see the look on Naveen's face, and he's like intrigued and amazed, and probably wondering, is there anything left for us to follow? And Naveen, my next question will be to you. Well, to get back my senses, well, honestly, this was far more than what I thought the government is doing. And all credit to the government, and hope we see this into a reality soon. Naveen, data is what we are hearing a lot. We heard that from Vanita, we heard that from Mr. Sanjeev. Right quality data, quality of data, data analytics, real-time data, data for cognitive computing, data for artificial intelligence. As a corporate, do you think that there is too much to grapple with? Or you think you are in a situation where you can use the right technology for the benefit of tax world and for corporates? So what are the right technologies for you? Or what is your roadmap like?
I think you're right, Vinay. The government is doing much more than we as corporates are doing. I was thinking I'll talk about some basic stuff, which we are trying to do. So I'll start with my basics. What we try to do here is every tax function, we divide our work into 3-4 buckets, which is compliance, which is advisory, which is advocacy, and litigation. So at most, you start with compliance, and GST is a terrific example, where we thought all the corporates are doing so much on GST automation. It's a big project. Everybody is in limelight in terms of what they're doing and trying to deliver. But you continue struggling there, reconciling 2 and 2A, huge errors on account of input of data. So discipline, to inculcate that discipline, I think the biggest challenge is not implementing GST. The biggest challenge is how do you get the right information, out of those technology. So data becomes very, very key. Like, very typical, very small examples, like you receive 20 invoices or 50 invoices. What the finance function does here is combines all of them, posts one entry. And then you start wondering how the reconciliation will happen in terms of what the vendors have uploaded, what you have uploaded. There are errors in terms of the invoice number. Somebody takes a shortcut while inputting the invoice number, and then you struggle because there is a mismatch. And you can't do it manually, it has to be automated way. So compliance, I think GST comes, on the forefront, in terms of what you're doing to automate and all. Then the other areas that you look at here is, we do a audit committee report on the litigations in terms of my PPR analysis. So what I'm thinking here is that can I get it straight? Because there are various units, various companies, various subsidiaries, the data keeps on changing. So when we are looking at the tax litigation software, normally in the business world or the products that we get here is legal softwares. So when you start talking about a tax litigation software, you get a litigation software, which is a very basic software, which just inputs the tax case and just tells you when the hearing is coming or gives you alert about the next hearings or raises the escalations. You can put some hearing notes. But if I want to get the status of what is the amount of tax provision in the books, what is the kind of refunds which will be available, after appeal effect, how much is probable, how much is possible, how much is remote, I don't get that data. And some of the consulting firms have cracked, in terms of that data requirement and very sophisticated tax litigation softwares. But those are rare. So that will still involve a lot of, customization to be done either at your end or to working with the other players. Then the reporting, definitely in terms of the various kind of reporting, corporate tax, deferred tax. Most of the tax guys feel that deferred tax is not a tax area, it's an accounting area.
Yeah.
You only try to focus on the current tax. But there's a lot of focus in terms of reporting. Can you automate reporting? We tried to explore with your software a few years back. And then there came the Ind AS, and, a lot of changes from IFRS or US GAAP perspective. So we're trying to find the right balance and, try to do it through Hyperion in terms of the advanced tax and, consolidation happening at a Hyperion level. So that's another area we are trying to look at from automation perspective. And the next things could be, which one, futuristic, if you ask me, which is actually current requirement, that if I have to collate data for a tax assessment purposes, and yesterday we were talking about how detailed information could be sought by the tax office. So if every business is a profit center, and from a SAP perspective, if you want to give them invoices, not possible. If you want to give them the detailed vendor-wise breakup, then you start struggling. So could there be a tax database to sit over SAP, which can prepare a consolidation of the numbers at a unit level, which a party-wise reconciliation and kind of invoices? I think we will have to reach there, from a tax technology perspective, because the way the things are coming and the way the information is being sought, somewhere we have to, come at that level.
Yep.
I'm not sure, I was talking about the withholding tax survey with Vishal, and, he said, Naveen, have you faced a kind of survey? I said, luckily I haven't, until a few years back. But if you have to reconcile all the ledger accounts and give a reconciliation to the tax office, saying that on one of the heads where you have deducted tax and why you have not withheld tax on this much of expense, and can you give a broad reco, all of us will go nuts. And given the kind of timelines where you have to turn that information to the tax office and avoid that is becoming very, very important and relevant. So I believe the best thing when you say what is for me to look at here is what is that I want to prepare a roadmap, a comprehensive roadmap. I may like to walk down that roadmap, I may not like to walk down that roadmap. But if I have my vendors identified, technologies identified, and I can tell you there are vendors who can do it for 10,000 rupees, software, a kind of immediate report on the reconciliation between 2 and 2A.
Yeah.
So technology always need not be very, very expensive till the time you know the right vendor and you know what is that you want. Though that may not be the ideal thing because you're looking at a very comprehensive solution for a big corporate, but you should know who are your options.
Yep.
I think I've taken too much time.
No, that makes complete sense. I'll just quickly summarize it. So what I could sense, and for the benefit of the audience, what's important is to have the right roadmap, and then you have a gamut of solutions, but you should know what solution fits for your organization need. And one point I think is the integration between the solutions. And then, last but not the least, how are you using those solutions for reporting purpose, whether it's compliance or management reporting? So that's the summary of it. Quickly, Vinita, if you want to add to that.
Not really, because needs are very similar.
Yeah.
What you summarize is very similar. I guess my added point is that it has to be the right mix of technology and the right mix of people. So
Yeah.
it's going to be evolving. So
Yeah.
I don't think so it will be something which is a one-time pick or a one-time evaluation. Needs keep changing, business models keep changing, technology keep changing,
Yeah.
and the government requirement will keep changing. So it will be an evolving concept, and
Yeah.
it will now stay there
Yeah.
as a constant thing to decide, evaluate, and keep changing.
Yeah, so we will definitely come to the people part, and to answer the evolving thing, let me first play a video to wake up the audience if they aren't. And I'll request you to watch this video because the next survey question is related to this video. If I may please ask this video be played.
It's hard to get noticed when you're new, but that's okay, I'm not looking for attention. I'm happy just helping people out, making their work lives work better. I take care of the routine stuff so others don't have to. Guess you could say I'm wired that way. I happen to do things a little differently, so work gets done faster. I've gotten so good at it, it almost takes care of itself. I usually solve problems before they come up. I'm a good listener. I pay attention to the details, look for patterns. What can I say? I love data. Intelligence doesn't come easy. I'm learning new stuff all the time. So I can make suggestions and help out more. I don't expect any fanfare, a pat on the back, or even a thank you. The way I figure it, if I'm doing my job right, people won't really know I'm there. And you know what's funny? Even though they don't seem to notice, I see the difference I make. And at the end of the day, that's enough for me.
Okay, so Vanita, this was an answer to your question. Things are changing, and how will technology be an answer to that? But before, my question is to the audience. And this is a survey question, so you can use your polling meters, please. The options are in front of you. Who do you think this new person within us was? Wow. The audience is much, much smarter. They say this is a unanimous decision, so that's definitely artificial intelligence. And getting to our next point, and the next slide, please. So, Vishal, one crisp question to you. What do you think is the role of artificial intelligence in the tax world, and have you already started using it in your scheme of things?
So I think artificial intelligence has a very important role to play, and I think it's somewhere a mix between robotics and the algorithms you put in to address a specific problem. And so the areas where we have effectively seen this being used is, I think, verifying the correctness of the data, which is being submitted to the tax authorities. There is artificial intelligence is used to even in the ASP, GSP solutions, on the GST compliance side, determining what is eligible credit and what is not.
Yep.
Then even on the withholding side, the software throws up, when you are applying a withholding rate, is this the right one? Because the system would have seen similar payments going out where there are different rates being used. So it upfront starts correcting you on using the right withholding tax rates to ensure that you are in compliance with the requirements. Again, I think the way things are evolving, through technology, you can today read emails, you can read websites, portals. So, for example, in case of, for example, management recharges, there is always a question which is asked is substantiate that the service was received by the Indian affiliate.
Right.
Now, very difficult to scan through millions of mails received by various recipients to justify that it came in. So, through the tax technology tool, you can in fact read emails and pull out the relevant emails from the system.
Yeah, a wonderful
those
example.
Systems can then form a basis to justify or substantiate the benefit test. Similarly, when it comes to PE, I think one of the biggest issue which we face is, how the contract was negotiated.
Yep.
Now, again, on those evidences are very difficult to find.
Yep.
So here, if you can, scan the email systems of the sales teams, you still can pull out the relevant emails or data points which evidence the active involvement of the foreign parent, or vice versa. So I think, it's unending, or it's the limitless is I think the extent to which AI can go and, pull out data from the systems. I'll give another example, now from GST standpoint, there is this requirement that for getting GST on the airline bills, you have to actually go with the airline bill itself and not the travel agent invoice. Now, how do you track it? Because we are used to getting all the invoices from our vendors or the travel agents. So the tool or the bot can actually read all the mails which are being received by the designated people, whether it's in PDF form or not. It can go to the portal of the airlines, pick up the PNR numbers, go to the portal, pick up the data from the portal, and then present a report. What is the total travel? What is the total spend? What is the total GST component on it, which you can claim? Similar exercise can be done on hotel bills, for example. So the companies which have substantial hotel travel. So again, I think, we actually are seeing this being done very, very effectively. Way bills are being generated by logistics companies or others straight away using bots.
Yep.
So again, I think this is something which is certainly here to play, and I think it is for the companies to determine which are the problem areas, and there is certainly a solution for it, and artificial intelligence can certainly come and play a big role in addressing some of these concerns.
Thanks so much, Vishal. All the examples were very relevant, I must say, and thanks for that. One more technology, and I wouldn't want to spend too much of time because I know we are still away from that, but blockchain. Well, one thing which the government is doing, Mr. Sanjeev, is using distributed trust as its way of operating. So whether TDS, someone pays but someone else deducts the tax. Whether GST, you need to reconcile between the seller and the buyer. And this is plainly distributed trust. And if you try and understand the concept of blockchain, that is what blockchain is about. Do you think we are still far from that, or the government has started contemplating it? What's your views?
No, I mean, the fact is, from a use case perspective, it is being evaluated.
Okay.
But when actually we'll do it, that will...
It will take time.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I know we are hopelessly ahead of time and we really need to wind it up. So just coming to the last point, that's who of tax technology. Vishal, quickly, and we'll have to keep this crisp. You were talking about robots. What's your experience? Where are we on bots and robots?
So I think the bots are consistently being deployed to find solutions to problems which are humanly very difficult to do. And I'll give one example. We had an interesting discussion with one of the telcos where the issue was that the payments are coming from multiple customers. So they are not able to verify whether the right withholding is being done and whether that withholding is being reflected in the form 26AS. So given that the payments are in millions, so we deployed a bot which actually did the entire exercise, and we were able to show the extent of the gap, which exists in this exercise. The funny part was that when we were selling this engagement to the company, the finance director said that, we are already chock-a-block, we have no seats for people, so where will this bot sit? So the understanding of, some of these concepts is low, but I think the bots can really solve a lot of problem or help you substantially in compliance. So I think as tax heads, as tax function heads, I think to bring greater efficiency in the tax functions, I think we have to identify what are the challenges which are difficult to do humanly, and certainly there is a bot who can undertake this exercise. To say, give another example, now the tax authorities are also asking questions around, besides, I think the question which you put in was, so on the expense side, what is subject to TDS, where you have done TDS. So I think this is one exercise, but today they are also asking, match 26 AS with your revenues. Or match your revenues with service tax revenues, or GST revenues. So again, that exercise, I think, practically it is impossible to do. I won't say that bot can solve this problem completely, but at least in one of the situations where we applied, we were really 90% plus situation to be able to satisfy to the tax officer. So I think, it is something which we have to evaluate where we believe humanly it's not possible. Again, one more example, sorry, just taking a few minutes. So when the GST compliance, requirement came in, I think in one of the cases, the client had placed a request for some 15 people to help in that compliance. But then with the ASP solution itself, the compliance requirement was down to 2 people. So that's the power of, how bots and robotics can be used. Another example, tax return filling. Tax return filling takes roughly 4-5 hours. In a complex situation, you have to fill up all the TDS amounts and the multiple other elements you have to put in, and then you have to verify it with Form 3C, D, etc., whether all the data points are filling in. Now this exercise, 4-5 hours of maybe a low-level employee, but he's spending the time. But with robotics, at least one of the solutions which we developed, it takes 4 seconds.
So it's really great. You have examples after examples. What we don't have too much of time, but thanks to you again for that. Quickly back to the audience, a simple survey for you. How many of you believe this is a fact? Could there have been a better poll? I'm sure in the entire day we are not going to... Oh, okay, so this has changed now. Okay. Otherwise, I was going to ask one of you to have the veto power. Anyways, I don't require that. Well, this is a prediction by IMF that this is what we are staring at. 52% of the work will be done by robots. Short of time, quickly, so much been done by technology. Where do we see ourselves? Where are the tax professionals heading to? Who are the winners and who are the losers as far as this tax technology advent is concerned?
The answer is quickly in one of the products our PSCM tried. So we work very closely with the procurement department on advising them on vendor creation and GST, which rate to apply, which state, and all those things. So they came up with an app like Alexia or Siri, where they said we will ask a question and Alexia or Siri will reply. So they actually had that, and that was working. But where they go wrong here is they didn't kind of partner too much with us to build those logics. But that is which is happening as of today. So I'm not sure 2025, it's going to be much earlier.
Much earlier. Vinita, what do you think?
Well, we are probably still 7 years behind. I don't have a view in terms of what will be the percentage or what will percentage look like, but definitely it's going to increase. But where do I see tax professional? Where do I see my own self as a tax professional? I guess our focus would probably be more on what value we'll be able to deliver to the business. So there will be definitely data, there will be definitely automation, data analytics, which will act as enablers. So that's how I see the future, which will act as an enabler, which we don't have today to an extent, but it will go on. But there, again, the tax environment will keep changing. It's evolving, whether it's the tax environment in India, world, again, the same point I'm trying to make. Jurisprudence, tax laws, tax codes, it will keep coming, and the government will keep also hopefully keep coming with new changes. So there will be an evolving world, there is a technology, there will be data enabler. So where we see is probably will be, at least I see ourselves reading this in a more holistic way, making sense of it, and still delivering value to business to again cater to 3 points which probably Naveen picked up, whether it's reducing risk, mitigating risk, increasing efficiency, and ultimately like profitability. But I definitely see this as something which is an enabler, helping us to read our world more holistically and making sense of it.
Yeah, wonderful. I think that's summarized in the slide as well. So very much in sync. Mr. Sanjeev, do you think we all are in a win-win situation? Are there any losers because of text technology?
Broadly, we'll have to look at just two concepts.
Yeah.
From a skill perspective, low-skill work, mundane work will be slowly be done through various tools, whether it is call center work, all those kinds of communication work will definitely, we can substitute. It's ability of a person to move to higher order of, review, analysis will always remain. And probably it will be much more because you're not only taking a decision, but you're probably fine-tuning a smart system. That requires a higher degree of understanding. That is one part in terms of human. In terms of practitioners and taxpayers, I think people who are able to integrate their tax compliance systems with their business systems, I think will be the one who win.
Okay.
Others will be, there's a massive problem which is going to come because of integration and our ability to handle large volumes of data. Just to give a sense, we do any matching in our tax system today, we are in for a shock. Because just to give a person remitting money outside, he uploads a 15 CA to income tax department. That he gives to the bank. Bank gives us data end of the quarter, what he has remitted. And we see a lot of cases where the remitting which we have not received, 15 CA. Then end of the quarter, then the TDS statement is filed. Probably a few things are missed out there. Then end of the year, a person reports associated enterprise international transaction in 3 CEB. He reports something in profit loss account. If you compare all of these, and we are comparing actually, we realize that we'll have to probably change everything to make sure that everything is matched instead of we do reconciliation at the end of it. So probably the way tax compliance is handled, the organizations which are able to re-engineer will be the winners. Others will be the losers. And people who are wanting to manipulate transactions will be the losers because the chances of detection and manipulation to be detected will be much lower. So
wonderful, wonderful. So mundane work is going to go away. Anything which cannot be automated is going to become more valuable. And from the government point of view, tax avoiders are the biggest losers. Thank you. That sums it all. Well, we started with the why, what, and who of tax technology. It is very difficult to be precise about it, but we still make an attempt. Why? Because tax technology is inevitable. What is it about? I think it is about right automation, right architecture, and right solutions. And who are the future for the tax world? We tax professionals itself, but people who are flexible and adaptable to use technology to improve their skills and enhance their values are the one which may be, are the one who may hold the light of the future. Well, I know it's lunchtime, so just one last question to the audience. And if we can start the polling, please. Thank you so much. Well, that absolutely resonates my feelings. CA exam is something which we cannot let competitors in. So thank you so much. I'll once again want to thank all the panelists. Thanks for your time and for your valuable inputs. It was wonderful talking to you. And thanks for the audience for being such a wonderful listener. Thank you.
Thank you.